Hey guys, it's Yorkie here and welcome to the channel for some iRacing content, where today we're going to be racing in the Falcon Sports Car Challenge series, which consists of LMP3 and GT4 class for some multi-class action. Rolling start phase that we're in at the moment, or shall I say more the formation lap that we're in at Road America, and as you can see, qualified in P11, and this was actually my first race back to iRacing in quite a long time. I tried out the Ligier GSP 320 LMP3 car when it first came out and released for iRacing a month or two ago, as well as the Cadillac GTP. But as I hadn't tried iRacing in a while, I thought it'd be good fun to give this series a go, as from what I've seen, it's provided some very fun, authentic and at times chaotic racing action. So here we are, coming into the rolling start phase now as the leader goes full throttle, and we are pretty much underway racing as there is the green flag. As I said, started from P11 on the right hand side of the grid as we're just rolling down towards turn 1. This lovely naturally aspirated V8 sounding very, very nice. I'm just going to take it fairly cautiously here, just follow the right hand train as we now pull up alongside P2, and we're there up alongside them on the inside for the run down into what is supposedly turn 3. I'm going to count it as turn 2. But that's us now up a position as there's chaos up in front and cars splitting off either left and right, allowing us to slip on through and gain, I think, another 3 positions with 3 cars involved there, one going off to the left and the other 2 going off to the right. So a very, very nice start for us, keeping the nose clean and avoiding getting ourselves caught into trouble, as the car up in front has quite a big moment of oversteer there, trying to apply the power coming off the tight left-hander at the bottom of the hill, one of the slower parts of the circuit, as I accidentally shift down into first gear, but we hold on to the position. No harm, no foul. The only problem is 0.6 seconds to the car in front already, and I think from what my teammates at Geodesic Racing have been saying to me, with these LMP3 cars, is you kind of lose the draft in and around 0.8, 0.9 seconds, so we're kind of verging on the edge of that already, which is not ideal. Need to get the head down, get up to speed fairly quickly, and see if we can try and close this gap back, as we're already at that 0.8 mark, as Tim R. Great, driver up ahead, has got the slipstream on the LMP3 immediately up in front of him. But yeah, this car, what a car it is to drive. Feels absolutely fantastic. Sounds brilliant as well with that naturally aspirated V8 hopping and cackling on the downshifts and on the overrun. And where they've got a little bit more downforce than a GT car, but none of... well, it doesn't have ABS. I do think it has traction control, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but either way, it's certainly not overly powerful, as it is easy in places to light up the tyres. But yeah, the downforce it produces is a great learning tool for newer upcoming drivers to learn how to drive prototype cars. We're very much under threat from the car. Lucas in P8, who's there looking to the inside. I'm not going to fight this coming down here into this corner. They're probably a fair bit quicker and more comfortable than I am, so I'm going to let them slip on through, redress behind them, and try and use them to my advantage to see if we can hold and keep up with the 2 cars up in front. But a good first opening lap back there, jumping up into P7 from P11. And now following the guy up in front, as he has a slight lock up there at the apex, runs a little bit deep, and that's us regaining the position. So that has not helped me at all in my mission to try and close up onto P5 and P6 in front, as we're now 1.2 seconds behind those 2 cars. We've now got Henrik, who's now in P8, was previously P9, just over half a second behind us. So we'll try and keep our eyes and focus on the cars up in front to pick up the throttle quite nicely there at the apex. I've done a little bit of practice with this car prior to doing this race, but as you can probably tell, compared to some of the other drivers where I've been absent from iRacing for quite a while, Still trying to get a bit more comfortable, really learn where the limits of the car actually are, and learn to really push from that. So we begin lap 3 now. So set a mid 2-minute lap there. Should be down in the 159s to sort of race pace that we should be at, but obviously the car is quite heavy with fuel at this point. The race is 30 minutes long. As you can tell by the video, we've not got the entirety of that 30 minutes. There are some points or moments through this race where there isn't a huge amount of action going on. You can see in the distance there the other class of cars, the GT4s, making their way through the last couple of turns, and they certainly provide an interesting element to this race, as we will come across them, I believe, twice in this 30 minutes, and they certainly play a factor in terms of the outcome of the race, with the differences between the two cars. A bit quicker in terms of accelerating, also overall straight line speed, but you've got way more downforce than the GT4 car actually has and produces. I think we've actually produced more downforce than what a GT3 and possibly even the GTE car can produce as well. That sort of performance window that this car is operating within. Hard on the brakes there, down into 3rd gear, just about hooking up the apex, making use of all the exit curb there on the outside, flat through the penultimate turn here as we approach into the final corner, which is quite a tricky one. You want to be hooking up the apex late to really focus on getting a good drive and a good exit off the corner, as Henrik, the yellow car behind, sitting pretty prominent there in the rear view mirror at the top of the screen. He's got slipstream on the run down towards turn 1. It's not really the best place to try and make a move unless you're quite nicely up alongside, so he's going to be patient and sit there behind for the moment. We'll try and get a good drive off here, as we've just gone through turn 3. This little kink here in the straight, I believe, is known as turn 4, which doesn't really constitute as a turn to me, but he's not close enough to make a move coming down into the braking zone for turn 5. This 90-degree left-hander here. Shift down into 2nd gear, again making use of the exit curb, and losing ground a little bit to the cars up in front. Back through the right-hander, but about half a car width shy of the apex. Could have been a little bit neater and tidier to that. And this is quite a tricky left-hander. It's kind of an in-between 2nd and 3rd gear. 2nd always feels a little bit too low in the gear, but then 3rd you kind of tend to bog a little bit on the exit. And then the long right-hander of the carousel there is always fun in this car. Really lean into the downforce, but he's had a much better run than I have. So he's going to be looking here as he's right up underneath the rear wing, looking to the inside. I'm not going to fight him too hard coming into here, but I'm going to have to make him work for it, because he doesn't really go for the lunge. Give him room on the outside, and taking away that acceleration zone on the exit allows me to get on the throttle slightly earlier than he did and maintain the position for now. But that is going to cost us time to the cars up in front, but I was hoping that it was going to be a bit more aggressive in his move there and redress him behind him, but instead he just kind of lingered there and didn't really go for the move, as he's once again got the slipstream here on the approach to this first corner, but he doesn't look for the move on the inside. Didn't quite have the run, wasn't going to be getting up alongside early enough, as we run out a little bit wide there on the exit, pushing through that first turn and get our first 1x of the race, but no real issue there. And again, we get a reasonable drive off the corner. So we skip ahead now to lap 6, jumping ahead a lap or two, and you can see I've kind of gapped Henrik a little bit. He's now half a second behind. But what you can also see on the relative there in the bottom left-hand corner is the GT4 traffic starting to appear up in the distance, as we got an LMP3 car off to the left-hand side of the circuit there. That was previous P4, so that is a 3P position gain there. So we now push on, and here we can see our first GT4 car. We should clear them quite easily before the first corner. So we're picking up the slipstream here, coming in towards the braking zone. We pull out just as we're getting to that, and yes indeed we do clear him quite nicely, and that's worked beautifully for us in holding up the car behind, giving us a nice buffer there. 1.6 seconds as we come into the braking zone now. So gained about a second in that move, being able to slip on through there without really affecting the GT4 car either. As we now start to catch a few more of the GT4s. So this is where I need to start to work one of my stronger attributes, which is managing traffic and getting through cleanly. I'm not going to be able to get this Mercedes here before this left-hander, so we're going to try and get him on the exit somewhere along the line. It kind of hesitated in the middle of the circuit, and there's almost maybe a little bit of car contact, but not quite. Aston forcing us to go right, and we're just going to sit in behind this Mercedes here rather than making a lunge, and instead just focus on getting a good drive off the exit here. Give us a nice clean run coming through long right-hander here. Now we've got a Porsche Cayman up in front of us. We're not going to get them before the kink though, a little bit too risky, so we lifted off early and instead just gave ourselves the room to be able to go full throttle and carry the momentum off the corner, and once again not quite able to catch this Mercedes before the turn. So lifting off early, lifting and coasting, giving myself the room to accelerate off the turn and not hurt my momentum there. So we've got one more GT4 up in front, and then there's a bit of space, about 5 seconds or so to the next car. So using a little bit of slipstream there, slip on through as we come down the start finish straight. We've eked the gap out to the car behind to 2.5 seconds now, so working our way through the traffic there has worked quite nicely for us. We've not really made much ground on the car up in front that's there, also 2.5 seconds up the road. This Aston's not going to hurt us in any way, just pushing a little bit too hard there through that right-hander, and again running out wide. So we now have had 3 1Xs over the course of this race. Closing up on the blue Mercedes AMG GT4 up in front. I'm not going to trouble it. Coming into the corner or at the apex. Instead we're going to slip nicely on past. Coming into the left-hander, which is quite a tricky one, coming over the crest of the hill as you're kind of braking. The car goes light and it wants to brake loose, so you've got to be a little bit more careful on the brakes there. Again, making our way past the Aston Martin quite nicely as the car up in front is getting held slightly by some of this GT4 traffic. I'm going to lift slightly there coming out the exit just to hold that tighter line and slip on through. Should get past this Mercedes no problem without having to lift or sacrifice any speed or momentum through the kink there. So that's worked nicely, and we now got 2 cars going side by side up in front as P5 has managed to slip on past the 2 of them. I'm hoping that there's going to be a space that opens up here. Indeed it does on the left hand side, so through there we slip. We are going to have to lift off the throttle a little bit as the car gets loose there coming through the penultimate turn. Just about managed to gather it back up though without losing too much ground and momentum. I think the gap went from about 1.5 seconds back up to 2.3 as lifting off would have put the weight towards the nose of the car, made the light go rear, which I think caused that slight oversteer moment, but we managed to get away with it. About too much of an issue, closing up nicely here on the 2 Mercedes in front, coming through that first turn, and we are going to be able to slip on through before key next right-hander onto this back straight. So again, really not losing too much time. Gained a little bit once again on P5. The gap now back under 2 seconds, but we now got the top 3 in quite a close battle. So we're going to lift off here, coming into the braking zone. Instead, give us a space to carry some speed through the left-hander, accelerate through the turn, and we should clear all 3 for this next left-hander. Indeed we do, slipping on through quite nicely without impacting their battle. Now the gap's back to 2.5 seconds. Staying pretty constant, not really gained anything there on the cars in front through that round of traffic. And it looks like we may have gained just a tiny little bit, just a couple of attempts, maybe 3 attempts on Lucas in P7 behind. So we've got some clear air now. It's time to push, get our head down and focus on trying to maintain this position, maybe try and close the gap to the cars up in front. And here you see us jumping once again, another 3 laps on to lap 12 now. Nothing much has really happened, just a couple of little off tracks here or there, and you can see that Lucas behind has been pressing on, has managed to get that gap from about 2.7, 2.8 seconds when we left it down to less than a second now. He's there lurking about 0.7. He's brought a Planchet and P8 along with him. So 2 cars behind, closing in, starting to apply a bit of pressure as we're coming into, I believe we're now into the last 10 minutes or so of this race. They just heard the engineer indicate that we've got 5 more laps of fuel, so about 5 more laps to go. We do have another round of GT4 traffic to get through as well. You see that Tim's also pulled out the gap by about a second or so to us up in front. So it's now 3.5, 3.6, and it's now dropped down to about 3.2 before we got to the braking zone for this here right-hander. So I think he may have made a mistake somewhere through the kink, may have had to lift slightly. So we're clearly trying to push on and try and hold the 2 cars behind us at bay, as the leaders are doing very, very quick lap times, as you can see. They're doing 158s, I'm doing low 159s. So the pace has improved, but still a good 3, 4, maybe 5 tenths off, as the car behind had slight wiggly moment there coming off of turn 1. Ran a little bit wide, clipped the grass, got a little bit loose, but they're still there lurking about half a second behind us. No doubt they're going to have the slipstream coming down this straight. It's going to help them close up and pose a threat later on in the lap. They're not going to be close enough to make a move here into this braking zone. Get the car slowed down, but you can see just how much more confident they are on the brakes in comparison to myself. I was right on the verge there of locking up, and generally these cars get very loose at the rear when you do lock up, especially in the latter part of the braking phase. Quite easy to lock the fronts to begin with, then later on it's more the rear that wants to start to rotate. So they are sat right there pretty close to my rear wing, 0.3 seconds off, so I need a good run coming through the long right-hander here. Try and hold them at bay at one of the key overtaking spots. They're still 0.3 seconds behind us. We're coming through the kink completely flat out. They'll be flat out as well. So they're now starting to close up in the slipstream. So we're going to have to go defensive here. Coming into the last 5 minutes or so, positioning ourselves towards the middle of the circuit, forcing them to go to the outside. And indeed, we do hold the position, defending quite nicely. And that's now actually going to put Lucas under pressure from the car behind. So slight opportunity to try and break away a little bit here. Need to get a good run coming through this final turn, applying the power on the exit, running slightly wide there. We get another 1x, 6th of the race so far. Haven't been able to break away from the toe of the cars behind. They're still going to be within that, and again you can see they're starting to close up once more coming down the long straight. So they're using the slipstream to their advantage. Good run there through the first corner. We need a good run through this right-hander here, hooking up the apex quite nicely, getting on the power early. And this is good, holding a nice little bit of a gap, but no doubt they're going to start closing up once more. I need to nail this braking zone here. So we've also got the GT4 traffic also coming into play. Getting onto the brakes and locking up a little bit there, not really quite slowing the car down enough and making a key mistake, which is going to cost me the 2 positions as we work our way across the cross and back onto the circuit. That's really going to hurt us, as obviously that's cost us 2 places and also quite a bit of time. Nearly 3 seconds to the cars in front now. So they got the freebie there with my misjudgment in the braking zone. Really kicking myself. So now we've really got to try and use this multi-class traffic to our advantage. Of closing up a bit more onto the back of this McLaren more than I wanted to. I was expecting them to be a little bit more quick, a little bit more speed coming off the exit there, which caused us to lift quite a lot as I was wanting to go to the right, as they would have been taking their line out towards the exit of the corner. It's going to cost us about a second or so to the car in front, as they also did lose time to that McLaren, and we did close up a little bit, but the gap's opened back up once again. So now I've got the work cut out for me. As we can see, more GT4s up in the distance, coming over the crest. Start lap 15 here in this race. See, it looks like P7 up in front has been held up slightly coming through turn 1. We weren't quite as clean as I would have liked to have been through that first corner. Would have been liked to have been up on that inside curb a little bit more than I was. And now we've got the 2 GT4s up in front, but they're not going to affect us here coming down this straight. That's going to work quite nicely for us, picking up the slipstream there. And we have indeed closed up a little bit of time, 1.5 seconds now to the car up in front, as they're getting held up through this left-hander. We need a good run through. We need to try and clear this Porsche as quickly as we possibly can when we close up, but we're not going to get them before this right-hander, so we're going to have to lift a little bit here and try and get them on the exit as we dart to their right, tuck in underneath. We've got the ebbs and flows of the multi-class traffic very much here in the works. Try and go around the outside of this Mercedes here. Going to let them take that normal tighter line, as we've got way more downforce than they have, and therefore I've got the grip to go around the outside. Do that quite nicely. I don't think we're going to get this Mercedes before the braking zone and this right-hander, so we're going to again have to focus on the exit. Slight lift earlier there, carrying slightly less speed through the corner just to make sure that we get a good clean run off the exit and we can slip to their right-hand side and slip on through. Gap is just under 2 seconds, so we're closing. We're not quite closing quick enough here. Gap to the car behind 6 seconds. So we are now beginning our final lap of the race. So we really got to push, we really got to hope that the multi-class traffic works in our favour and we lock in here. So again, it looks like he's being held up slightly coming through the first corner, so good smooth run there through that turn. Make use of the time gained. Don't need to worry about hesitating here through that right-hander as we pick up a little bit of slipstream off the exit of the turn. Gap just over 1.5 seconds. See, sat at 1.7. He's going to clear the Mercedes though before the braking zone for this left. So braking down. Mercedes has gone a little bit deep into the corner actually. Are we going to be able to clear him before this left-hander? No. So we're going to lift slightly early there. Instead, focus on getting them on the exit as we look to their left-hand side. Which opens up this right-hander for us quite nicely. Gap back over 2 seconds now. This isn't working out at the moment. Need a little bit more luck than this. Hopefully we can get this Aston Martin fairly quick and easily. As we're looking around the outside and we just sail around the outside there as he holds a nice tight line, giving us plenty of room. So that doesn't really affect us too much, other than the line through the corner. Coming in now towards the last few turns. Don't really think we're going to have an opportunity here to battle for P7. It's going to be unfortunate. That mistake a few laps ago, locking the wheels under braking and running wide on the exit of the corner. Well, not even making the apex, to be fair. That's really cost me, but in fact, looks like Lucas and Lepanche have gotten very, very close. Lucas being held up at the final corner by some multi-class traffic, and it looks like Lucas just about manages to hold on to that P6, so there's probably a photo finish there at the line, but we had come across the line in P8. And that was a pretty fun first race back in iRacing, and definitely a race series that I can recommend getting yourself involved with if you haven't already, as these LMP3 and GT4 cars are an awful lot of fun to drive and race on track with each other. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below, but otherwise I'll try and get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And until the next video, thanks very much for watching. Until then, have fun, stay safe, and take care.